Good evening and welcome to Scotland at 7. It's the Thursday the 14th of December and my name is Brian Liddy, here with a run through of today's news for you. Ukraine update day 659. In his first year-end press conference since he launched his invasion of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin said there will only be peace in Ukraine when we achieve our aims. Repeating his calls for the denazification of Ukraine, Putin adopted a hardline stance as he demanded Ukraine's unconditional surrender. EU leaders were heading into a high-stakes summit for Ukraine, with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban threatening to block both the start of EU membership talks and €50 billion in financial aid for Kyiv. If EU leaders give a green light, Kyiv will be able to claim a geopolitical victory, just as the Biden administration is struggling to get a Ukraine aid package through the US Congress. Ahead of today's summit, President Zelensky said that Orban had no reason to block Ukraine's EU membership. President Zelensky's Chief of Staff, Andriy Yermak, also urged EU countries to recognise that Ukraine has much to offer the bloc. Arriving at the summit in Brussels, Poland's new Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, said that apathy on Ukraine was unacceptable. Poland's previous government had become embroiled in a row with Ukraine over grain exports, but new Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski also stressed that supporting Ukraine would be a priority for the new administration. The 5 Nordic nations told President Zelensky during previously unannounced talks in Oslo that they would support his country for as long as it takes in its struggle to drive out Russian forces. Together, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland and Iceland have provided aid to Ukraine worth €11 billion since Russia invaded in February 2022 and are ready to continue giving extensive military, economic and humanitarian support, the 5 nations said in a joint statement. Denmark's government presented a new support package for Ukraine worth €1 billion to Parliament today, following Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen's meeting with other Nordic leaders and President Zelensky in Oslo. Ukraine's top mobile phone operator, Kyivstar, started restoring voice services to some clients a day after its networks were knocked out by a major cyber attack, Kyivstar CEO Alexander Komarov said, with data and other services to follow. The company, which provides services to more than half of Ukraine's population, sustained huge damage during the attack on Tuesday, Komarov told Reuters, calling it the biggest cyber attack on telco infrastructure in the world. Excuse me. Forgive me. A hacking group believed by Kyiv to be affiliated with Russian military intelligence claimed responsibility for the cyber attack. A group of activist hackers, or hacktivists, called Solntsepoyok, said in a post on the Telegram messaging app that it carried out the cyber attack and published screenshots appearing to show that the hackers had accessed Kyivstar's servers. And now the latest on Israel and Gaza. At least 18,787 Palestinians have been killed and 50,897 wounded in Israeli strikes on Gaza since October 7th, the Gaza Health Ministry spokesperson Ashraf al-Qidra said in a statement on Thursday. All communication and internet services have been completely cut off in Gaza, Palestinian communication companies Paltel and Jawal announced today. The UN's Palestinian refugee chief, Philippe Lazzarini, says people in Gaza are so hungry they're stopping aid trucks, taking the food and eating it right away. He said this was his 3rd visit to Gaza since the 7th of October and the situation there is declining rapidly. The Israeli ambassador to the UK, Tipsy Hotovely, has rejected the possibility of a 2-state solution for Israel and Palestine in an interview with Sky News. In a meeting while visiting White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan today, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that it will take several months to defeat Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Israel's parliament has approved a wartime budget that adds 25.9 billion shekels, that's £5.5 billion, to the national budget. The IDF have said that more than 70 militants were arrested during an intelligence operator at the Adwan hospital in Gaza City. It added that it had successfully carried out 3 operations on Hamas sites overnight, including one in a school. The UK is to ban Israelis responsible for violence against Palestinians in the West Bank from entering the UK. 3 Palestinians have been killed in an Israeli raid on Jenin in the West Bank, the Hamas-led health ministry has reported. It means 11 people have now been killed since the Israeli operation began on Tuesday. The Palestinian Prime Minister, Mohammed Shtayyeh, has said that pressure on the Palestinian Authority to reform is a distraction from the call for peace. Hamas should recognise Israel and follow the stance of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, according to senior Hamas official Musa Abu Marzouk. Support for Hamas has risen among Palestinians during the conflict, according to an opinion poll by the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research that shows higher approval levels in the Gaza Strip, which has been hard hit by Israeli attacks. Moving on. The Bank of England has said the UK is facing a tougher job to crush persistently high inflation than other advanced nations, as it kept interest rates on hold at the highest level. As it kept interest rates on hold at the highest level since the 2008 financial crisis. Pushing back against expectations in financial markets for a deep round of interest rate cuts next year, the central bank said there was still a long way to go before it could declare victory on inflation, despite a worsening outlook for the UK's stagnant economy. Setting itself apart from the US Federal Reserve, which signalled on Wednesday that it expected to cut interest rates 3 times next year, the bank said rates would need to remain at high levels for sufficiently long to return inflation back to its 2% target set by the government. Responding, the SNP's economy spokesperson, Drew Hendry MP, said, "The news that the cost of borrowing will remain at its highest level in 15 years will come as a blow to households across Scotland, and it is down to Westminster government's scandalous economic mismanagement." He went on to say, "Mortgage costs continue to soar and energy bills, which are already sky high, are set to rise again in January. Scotland cannot afford the cost of Westminster. It is an unaffordable burden." With both the Tories and Labour wedded to Brexit and austerity, it is clear that only the SNP will stand up for the people and businesses of Scotland. In Holyrood today, Wellbeing Economy Secretary Neil Gray led a debate which he said highlighted the Scottish Government's positive and collaborative approach to industrial relations and the rights of trade unions. In the debate, he pledged continuing opposition to the UK Government's Strikes Minimum Service Levels Act and underlined the Scottish Government's commitment to fair work and the rights of trade unions. He also made clear the Scottish Government's position that the right to strike for fair pay and safe work conditions should be an integral part of the rights of citizens in Scotland and across the UK. Speaking ahead of the debate, Mr Gray said, "It is the Scottish Government's long-standing position that a progressive approach to industrial relations, along with stronger, not weaker protections for workers, is at the heart of a fairer society and prosperous economy." He went on to say the UK Government's Minimum Service Levels Act is unwanted, ineffective and fails to respect devolution. We will continue to promote a Scottish approach which recognises that while disputes will occur, they are best resolved in an atmosphere of goodwill. We have no intention of asking employers to issue work notices. Our motion sends a strong signal that in Scotland we do things differently. We are intent on building a prosperous, fair economy based on dialogue, not dispute, and collaboration, not confrontation. A Labour Party amendment proposed that the Scottish Parliament should wait for the election of a Labour government. However, in her summing up, Mary Todd said that in the 43 years since Margaret Thatcher came to power, there had only been a Labour government for 13 of those years, and that waiting for Labour government was no guarantee that anti-trade union laws would not be repealed. The Scottish Government motion was passed without amendment by 85 votes to 28 against. Disability rights campaigners have reacted with anger to the news that Rishi Sunak will not appoint a new dedicated minister for disabled people, describing it as an appalling and retrograde move. The brief would instead be taken on by another minister, along with their existing commitments, the government said. The position had been vacant since Rishi Sunak's cabinet reshuffle last week. Commenting, the SNP's disability spokesperson, Marion Fellows MP said, whether they've been punished by the austerity agenda, sanctions regime, cruel work capability assessments, or through the lack of any meaningful cost of living support, disabled people are clearly no priority for this UK government. Scrapping the role for Minister for Disabled People shows that. She went on to say, to scrap the role after 13 years of austerity shows a blatant disregard for those who have struggled most under this UK government and a complete abdication of responsibility in assisting disabled people to live better lives. She went on to say, worse, it shows the Tories are satisfied with the horrifying way they have treated disabled people. Scott Benton, the MP for Blackpool South, is facing a 35-day suspension from Parliament, leaving Rishi Sunak open to yet another difficult by-election. Mr Benton is reported to have offered to lobby ministers on behalf of the gambling industry and leak a confidential policy document, an important policy document, a confidential policy document for up to £4,000 a month. Undercover reporters for The Times, posing as representatives of a fake investment fund, caught the MP, who was elected for the Conservatives in 2019, saying he could call in favours from colleagues and get easy access to ministers when queuing for parliamentary votes. The Commons Standards Committee said Benton's actions were an extremely serious breach of the rules. The message he gave to the undercover reporters was that he was corrupt and for sale, and that so were many other members of the House, the Standard Committee's report said. He communicated a toxic message about standards in Parliament. We condemn Mr Benton for his comments, which unjustifiably tarnish the reputation of all MPs. The committee recommended that he should be suspended for 35 days. If the Commons votes to back the punishment, it could leave Benton, who was stripped of the Tory whip after the allegations surfaced, facing the possibility of a recall petition and by-election. Blackpool South is one of the red wall seats which rejected the Labour Party when Benton won in 2019. It is one of the most deprived areas in England. Benton has had the whip suspended since April and since then has been sitting as an independent MP in Parliament, Benton has had the whip suspended since April and since then has been sitting as an independent MP. There are 18 independent MPs in Parliament who have all been suspended from their parties. They outnumber the Liberal Democrats in Westminster. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled that Poland's 2020 abortion legislation violated the rights of a woman who was forced to travel abroad to access an abortion. The court found that while the legislation, which prevented the applicant from accessing her abortion after her fetus was diagnosed with trisomy 21, that's Down syndrome, did not legally amount to inhuman or degrading treatment, it did violate her right to privacy and family life, protected under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. Poland was ordered to pay the applicant €16,004 in damages. We fought for this decision for every woman living in Poland. Federa, a Polish women's rights organisation that had lawyers representing the applicant, said in a statement. This verdict is a milestone and another argument that a Polish law, which causes so much suffering for women in Poland, must change. The woman, known as ML in court papers, became pregnant in 2020. During the 14th week of pregnancy, the fetus was diagnosed with Down syndrome and the woman was scheduled for an abortion in a Warsaw hospital on the 28th of January 2021. The ruling of Poland's Constitutional Tribunal, which criminalised abortions carried out due to fetal abnormalities, came into effect just one day before her procedure. ML's doctor informed her that, due to the new legislation, her abortion appointment was cancelled and that she would not be able to access the procedure at any Polish hospital. ML had to travel to the Netherlands, where she terminated her pregnancy on the 29th of January 2021. In her rapidly deteriorating mental state, Emil had to organise a trip abroad within a few days, leaving her family and loved ones in Poland, her lawyers said. For an abortion, which only a few days earlier would have been performed for free in a nearby hospital, she had to travel to the Netherlands, where she spent more than 5,500 zloty, that's £1,100. In its decision, the court stressed that the European Convention of Human Rights was based on the principle of rule of law, but said that Poland's overhaul of the judiciary cast doubt over the lawfulness of the constitutional tribunal that issued the 2020 ruling. Consequently, the court found that the interference with Emil's Article 8 rights was not in accordance with the law. We expect the new Polish government to liberalise abortion law, said Federa. A return to the legal situation before the ruling of the Polish Constitutional Court is not enough. What is needed is access to legal abortion, regardless of the reason. Donald Tusk became Poland's Prime Minister this week, almost 2 months after a parliamentary election handed a majority to an alliance of opposition parties. His appointment puts an end to 8 years of rule by the right-wing Populist Law and Justice, or PIS, party. A former Republican House Speaker, Paul Ryan, has said that Donald Trump is not a conservative but a populist authoritarian narcissist. Paul Ryan, who is from Wisconsin, led the House majority for 2 years when Trump was president. He was speaking to Kevin Kajiwara, co-president of Teneo Political Risk Advisory, in a podcast interview recorded in November, but widely noticed this week. In the interview, Mr. Ryan also praised the Republican Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger for opposing Trump to the cost of their congressional careers. Ryan left Congress in 2019 and now sits on the board of Fox Corp, parent company of Fox News. Voices on both sides of the main political aisle have criticised Ryan for not opposing Trump more strongly when he ran for the Republican nomination in 2016, or through 4 chaotic years in the White House that ended in the deadly January 6 attack on Congress. Trump was impeached twice, including for January the 6th, but escaped conviction and now dominates polling in the next Republican presidential nomination. He does so despite facing 91 criminal charges, including 17 related to attempted election subversion and civil threats, including a business fraud trial and a defamation suit arising from a rape claim a judge called substantially true. Kajiwara asked Ryan how he thought history would judge Kinzinger and Cheney, conservative Republicans from Illinois and Wyoming, who stood against Trump and sat on the January 6 committee before being forced out of Congress. Ryan said, "Trump's not a conservative, he's an authoritarian narcissist, so I think they basically called him out for that. He's a populist authoritarian narcissist." He continued, "There has to be some line, some principle is so important to you that you're not going to cross, so that when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, look yourself in the mirror, you like what you see. I think Adam and Liz are brushing their teeth, liking what they see." New powers enabling councils to charge up to double the full rate of council tax on second homes have been agreed by the Scottish Parliament. Councils will be able to increase the charges from the 1st of April 2024, with rates for the first year being based on those from 2023-24. The change brings second homes into line with council tax policy on long-term empty houses and aims to increase housing availability by encouraging more homes to be used for living in. New owners of properties that have previously been empty for more than 12 months will now have a 6-month grace period, during which they will be protected from paying double the full council pay rate, with the potential for 6 months to be extended by councils. This is subject to evidence that renovations or repairs are being undertaken by the owner with a view to the building being brought back into use. Public Finance Minister Tom Arthur said, "I'm pleased Parliament has backed this important legislation. These changes to council tax were a commitment made in our programme for government and aim to make sure the tax system works for an incentive to prioritise homes for living in." He went on to say, a majority of those who responded to our consultation earlier this year supported councils being able to charge a council tax premium on top of regular rates for second homes. By protecting those renovating an empty home from paying the empty home premium, we are incentivising new ownership and giving them time to organise and undertake the work necessary to bring it back into use. Details of progress towards a new fiscal framework between the Scottish Government and local government have been published. The Verity House Agreement committed the Scottish Government and COSLA to establish a new framework which will govern how councils' funding is negotiated and agreed. It is intended to give councils greater flexibility over their budgets to deliver our shared priorities and meet local needs. Publishing the update together with COSLA, Deputy First Minister Shona Robeson said, "We have made good progress on the new fiscal framework, which is an important plank of the Verity House Agreement and our commitment to a better partnership working with local government." She went on to say, already many of the principles we have agreed together are being put into practice, such as improved engagement ahead of the publication of the Scottish budget and the joint working to consider new local tax powers. We will continue to work closely with COSLA to progress the next phase of work and continue the positive discussions we've had with them on behalf of local councils across Scotland. COSLA Resources spokesperson, Councillor Katie Hagman, said, "I welcome this update on progress towards the new fiscal framework. Getting this framework in place is a priority for local government." She went on to say the new framework should, when complete, give councils greater flexibility over our budgets and enable us to deliver our shared priorities and meet local needs. It will also see much earlier budget engagement. Health Secretary Michael Matheson met with A&E staff at St John's Emergency Department in Livingston today to see firsthand how teams are gearing up for the peak winter period where pressure on services is expected to intensify. Mr Matheson thanked staff for their continued hard work and dedication and called on the public to do their part to help relieve pressure on A&E this winter by considering if their condition is an emergency before attending. Mr Matheson said, "I was pleased to meet frontline A&E staff at St John's Hospital today to see firsthand how they are preparing for winter and to hear about the challenges they are facing as pressure intensifies." He went on to say, "To help relieve pressure on services this festive period, I want to remind the public to consider whether their condition is an emergency before going to A&E. Local GPs and pharmacies can be contacted during the day for non-critical care. NHS 24 is also available on 111 for non-emergencies. Our winter plan is supporting boards maximise capacity to meet demand, and our £12 million expansion of hospital at home is already helping more people receive care at home or as close to home as possible, where clinically appropriate, which is relieving pressure on the front door of our A&Es. He continued, "Our highly skilled and committed workforce are the cornerstone of our response every winter, and I am extremely grateful for their continued hard work and dedication in the face of sustained pressure. Their efforts will be vital in ensuring we deliver high-quality care for the public this winter." More than 100 million free bus journeys have been made since the Scottish Government introduced free bus travel for under-22s. The milestone moment comes on the same day as the Year 1 evaluation of the Young Persons Free Bus Travel Scheme is published, which finds it has allowed over a third, that's 34% of cardholders, to access new opportunities. The scheme aims to encourage more sustainable travel and tackle issues related to transport poverty by embedding positive sustainable travel behaviours, opening up education, employment and leisure opportunities, reducing household outgoings to aid children, particularly those living in poverty, and the evaluation shows progress against each of those objectives, with increasing numbers of young people travelling by bus and families reporting cost savings and reduced worry and anxiety relating to travel. Minister for Travel Fiona Hislop and Minister for Zero Carbon Buildings, Active Travel and Tenants' Rights Patrick Harvey marked a milestone at Wester Hailes High School in Edinburgh, where they heard how young people there have benefited from the scheme. Ms Hislop said, "I'm really pleased to see that over 100 million journeys have now been made by under-22s across Scotland, and that the scheme is making a positive difference to young people's lives. This policy is truly transformative. It's reducing travel costs for young people and their families, encouraging a shift towards public transport from private car use, and improving access to social, leisure, education and employment opportunities." She went on to say that the findings of the one-year evaluation are also key to ensuring the scheme continues to have a positive impact going forward. We will work with operators and other key partners to ensure that service provision matches demand from young people and that free bus travel continues to have a truly transformative impact across Scotland. Well, that was our final item for this evening, but before I go, I just want to remind you that here at Broadcasting Scotland, we depend on your generosity, our supporters. So to everyone who has donated and to everyone who has signed up to make a regular monthly payment, thank you very much. You know that our programmes will always be free to view. However, if you can afford £5 a month, please do consider becoming a Broadcasting Scotland supporter. Our need to reach our £30,000 target to pay our bills is still pressing. But due to your generosity, we have raised over £22,000 so far. However, our need to raise the remaining £8,000 is really urgent. But I'll just say good night and thank you for watching.
Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Lewis McGlynn.
Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Saoirse Healy.
Hello and welcome to Broadcasting Scotland. My name is Donald C. Stewart. Broadcasting Scotland is Scotland's independent broadcaster, providing factual news, reporting on the issues important to the people of Scotland.
We are committed to public service broadcasting, and with your support, we will produce even more programmes.
Provide opportunities for young people interested in media production and broadcasting, and challenge preconceptions of what Scottish media looks like, amplifying Scotland's voice and reflecting its communities.
We can already deliver high-quality live news, and we will create the highest quality programmes for you to enjoy, but we can only do that with your support.
So please subscribe to and share our channel or donate to Broadcasting Scotland via the link in the description. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.